It's so important to invest in yourself, right? I mean, you are your greatest asset. And I just want to applaud you all for, taking, this monetary move and investing in yourself. And I'm just convinced that if the ground is hungry enough, it's going to grow things. And your life is a ground. Your life is ready to produce harvest, and that's exactly what you're doing. Being a part of this lounge is you are investing in yourself. You're sowing seed into your life, and whatever arena that you might be in leadership, um, you will benefit from this. I'm not going to teach just from the angle of business. I'm not going to teach from the angle of ministry. I'm just going to teach leadership. And this can translate across the board into every realm. And so that's what I'm going to do. Every principle and every point, every topic, I want you to hear through the lens of your context, through the lens of your dreams, through the lens of the vision that the Lord has given you. Um, One point might mean something different to the next person, and vice versa. But we're gonna have a good time in this. And again, like I said a minute ago, if the ground is hungry enough, you're basically guaranteed a return on the investment. So I just want to applaud you for investing in yourself. And me, just the few of you that's on this call right now. And for the most part, me. I've been in vocational leadership going on 12 years now. And leadership is essentially one of my favorite topics to teach on. I mean, I think one day I went and spoke on leadership, and in 2 days, I spoke 16 hours on leadership. That's how passionate about leadership I am. And so it's my favorite topic. Leadership matters. You can trace most of the health of an organization back to leadership. You can trace toxicity oftentimes back to leadership, because leaders have what they allow. And so, anyways, I'm excited to get into this today. I don't know everything. I am learning just like you, but there are things that I have learned. And I just want to take you along that process with me in learning and growing together. And what this is going to look like today moving forward, essentially, I'm going to take questions at the end. So I want to encourage you, as you enter into these lounges every Monday morning, you come with questions ready. Even if it's somewhat unrelated to the teaching for the day, you can still bring questions to the table, and we love to dialogue and talk over those things. So I encourage you to show up with questions. Of course, we'll gather every single Monday morning at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we have 5 or 6 last night register from literally all the way from Orlando to South Texas to right here in Shreveport. And I'm just excited about seeing who else joins this community of like-minded leaders. And one thing is in common amongst all of you is that you're hungry to grow. You're hungry to learn. You understand what a growth mindset is. You understand the power of pursuing knowledge, intellect, education, and and that really is a powerful thing. It's a powerful tool in the arsenal of a leader. It's beyond you just having a nice charisma that only goes so far. It's, you need the tools you need. So I'm going to get really practical in these lounge settings. Um, and to teach leadership, I want to make sure that you walk away not with just a buffet in full. I want to make sure that you walk away with a to-go box, with something in your hand that you can actually apply, what I like to say, on Monday morning at your desk. And so um, throughout these Mondays, I'm going to have different guest speakers come through. I'm going to have some heavy hitting leaders come through, and I might announce it, I might not, but they're going to be fire. You already know. And I want to encourage you also to post about this, spread the word. If you need pictures, if you need the branding, let me know, because we would love, again, this is to build a tribe. This is to build a community. This is not to get my name out. This is not, there's no agenda attached to the lounge. I could care less about me being on this. As a matter of fact, there might be days I don't even show up because it's somebody else that is teaching. This is, again, about having an instructor that is credible, that's done a thing or two, that pours out just a couple things that he or she might know or might be learning. And so we're on this journey together of growth. We're on this journey of leadership together. And I'm excited to get into this today. It's going to be a lot of fun. This is a weekly fill up. And so there might be some weeks, like I said, we might go deep for 40 minutes. There might be some times where I process a thought with you for 20 minutes. Regardless, this is just to recalibrate us as we go into our work week. As a leader, there's something in your mind called an RAS. You might have heard me talk about it if we talked for a long period of time. But essentially, it's the thing that once you've created awareness in your unconscious about something, your unconscious is the crew and your conscious is the captain. And somewhere in that RAS, you drift towards what is created awareness of. In other words, if I teach today, let's just say I teach today on how influence is fragile. All week long, because we've now fostered awareness, your RAS is going to be drifting towards that thought in the back of your mind that your influence is fragile, it's delicate. And so you'll be doing things through that lens. It's the same thing in your mind that if I asked you a question today and you almost have the answer, it's on the tip of your tongue, and randomly tomorrow you're taking a shower and it comes to you out of nowhere, that's because your crew has been going out to try to find that answer the entire time. It's what allows you to become familiar with things. Like if you went out and bought a red Mercedes, you haven't seen a red Mercedes up on the roads until that point. And then you look around, you see 8 of them within a week. That's the RAS in your mind. And so my point is, the things that we talk about on these Monday mornings, you're going to drift towards those because awareness was fostered. You're going to drift towards those throughout the week. So I'm excited to get into this today. I have 6 points essentially on what a leader is, or for teaching's sake, who is a leader? Who is a leader? Let's get right into this. These are some of my favorite ones. Who is a leader? A leader is one who moves someone or something forward. A leader is a mover. See, a manager is a little different. A manager maintains what is, and there's a place for that. There might be seasons even in your leadership to maintain what is. But a leader is constantly seeking out ways to move someone or something forward. Or you can say it this way with a nice alliteration. A leader is one who moves an organism and or organization forward. And those of you know, if you've been in leadership for any time, organizations are made up of organisms. And if you move the people forward, the product will move forward within itself. So a leader is constantly seeking out ways to move the people and the organization forward. And a leader just has, even without a title, if you function as a leader, if leadership is in you, like I said down here in quotes, a mover is going to move. No matter what you touch, you're going to move that thing forward. Everything you touch prospers. Everything you touch, you influence. And those are actually the people that I like to seek out for in our organization is, can you function as a leader without a title? We'll get into more of that in just a minute, but everything you touch will move forward. You're diligent with what is entrusted in your hands. You're constantly trying to advance and prosper that thing. You're constantly dreaming. Michael is on this call, and he's constantly coming to me with solutions for young adults, with ideas, with innovation. And because leadership is in him, he's just going to try to make that thing better and move it forward. I didn't ask him to do any of this. He's taken initiative to do it. And that's just one case in point. I'm sure I could go between all few of y'all and talk about examples, how I know personally. That's the neat thing about just us few being right here, because there's going to be a day where we can't see all each other, on one screen. It's going to be full of people, hundreds of people from around the world on these lounge calls. But all of you, I know all of you, you have leadership in you because I've seen you move things forward and take the initiative all by yourself. But that's who a leader is. A leader is someone who moves someone else and or something forward. Okay. You don't just check boxes. You take those boxes and you say, how can I make this better. That's what a leader does. No matter if they work at Cane's Chicken, Chick-fil-A, Kroger, Whole Foods, a church, a business, if you're an admin, if you're a facilities manager, if you're whatever, leadership can be in you no matter the organization that you serve. Leader is a mover. All right, second one. Who is a leader? A leader is one who develops other leaders and not one who aims for more followers. If your aim is just to gather more followers or more clients, more customers, that is not what a leader does. Okay, you have now entered into some sort of selfish mindset, sometimes a poverty mindset if you're just trying to get customers. Your aim should always be serving the people, developing the people for their destiny as a leader. Again, no matter if you are a supervisor at Starbucks, you're developing. You're not just trying to gain influence so that they remember your name. You're constantly trying. That's how you leave the legacy that you're built to leave, by the way, is you serve other people and let them speak of your legacy, right? You serve them, you bring them value, and then you leave the godly legacy that you're called to leave. But you're not trying to be about self-promotion. You're not trying to push your own agenda. So a leader is one who develops other leaders, not aims for more followers. A leader understands that it is, the second line here, it is about the people and not the leader. It's about the people and not the leader. Okay. I love this next part, the 5-step cycle of succession. Some of you heard me teach it before, but for recording sake, I want to run through it again. Because you've heard the line that there is no success without succession. Succession is someone coming up behind you that ideally you've developed, right? And you pass off that baton. You could say it that way. Succession. So there's 5 steps. I'm going to run through it really quickly. The first step is I do, you watch. In other words, I set the tone. I set the example. I set the standard. I create the system. And you watch me. You take note. You glean from how I do what I do. The second step is I do, but you help. Now I brought you in a little bit. And now I'm kind of showing you, letting you into as much insight as I can without overwhelming you. I take you step by step in the process. You start helping me a little bit. Thirdly, you do now. I've passed off the responsibility, but not the weight, because there's a difference between responsibility and weight. So I pass off some responsibility, but I'm still there to carry some of the weight. I'm still there to kind of move your hands along the task, along the responsibility, but I haven't passed the thing off to you yet. But the next step, I start passing it off. Number 4, you do, now I watch. I now pull back and I'm watching you do it. I'm watching you kind of carry the weight a little bit. I'm watching you now set the new standard, the new tone. I watch you move that thing forward, right? And lastly, number 5, you do and they watch. In other words, the world benefits off you doing that thing. I'm now out of the picture, right? And you're doing the thing. And that right there is succession. That's when the baton gets passed off, whether it's, you being the next pastor, you being the next leader in that organization, or even that department in that organization. Okay. So that's a 5-step cycle of succession. Again, there is no success without succession. Leadership is about serving the people, not about getting more followers. Next, who is a leader? A leader is one who has influence by service, not by title. It's you serving other people. It's called servant leadership. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. The unseen power behind leadership is something called influence. So how do you have influence in people's lives? You serve them. Mother Teresa had great influence because why? Her service. Jesus was the greatest leader and greatest servant of all time. It's no coincidence he had great leadership because he had great servanthood. It's servant leadership. He went low. God, the Father, elevated him. Servant leadership. So the unseen power of leadership is influence. So people ask me, how do you lead somebody? The answer is simply this: serve them. Because when you serve them, you obtain influence in their lives, right? naturally with a pure heart, with a good motive, of course. And then that influence gives you leadership in their lives. John Maxwell said, positional leadership is the lowest and weakest form of leadership. In other words, if you rely just on a title to lead somebody, you are, quite frankly, a weak leader. If you have to walk into a room and say, because I said so, you don't have actual influence. You only have a weak influence because of title. You don't have real influence, not real powerful influence. You might get them to fulfill a task with a title, but you won't actually leave an impact in their lives. A positional leader oftentimes just makes it about themselves, and not about the person. You get high on a title, you thrive in a seat, but you never served. And so the highest form of leadership is, of course, servant leadership. When you serve somebody and you have natural influence. And again, as a leader, those are the people that I look out for. Those who are already functioning as influential people without giving a title. Matter of fact, sometimes I'll wait just a little while longer to see if someone would step up and just serve somebody without me giving them a title, because sometimes you can stand somebody up a little too soon. And it's much harder as a leader to sit somebody down than to stand some, or it's much harder, to sit somebody down than to stand them up. And so you want to make sure that they're functioning with a pure heart as a leader by the way of servanthood. Does that make sense? So servant leadership. All right. One who has influence by service, not because of a title. Titles aren't bad. You're going to get those. You're going to get a lot of them, and they're going to speak of something. They're going to speak of achievements, accolades, weight, responsibility. People are going to respect it. But you have that title, let it be because of the way you serve people. Okay, this is a very unsexy teaching of leadership, but this is the model of Jesus. I know this is my company. This isn't, Pastor Tyler, but I'm still about that, come on, that kingdom life. So you're going to hear verses. You're going to hear me reference Jesus all through my business because it's just who I am. So Jesus was the greatest servant and the greatest leader. It was no coincidence. Amen. Who is a leader? One who develops other leaders. No, that was not supposed to be there. Who is a leader? One who jealously guards their character. Oh man, this is a big one, especially in our day and age of social media, of creativity, of, how you are the product, you are your own brand. But what matters all the more in leadership is character. Having the strength within to be able to sustain the pressure from without. Having the internal fortitude to hold the weight of all the pressures from hardship, right? Also the pressure that your craft might put on you. That's why I have right here, character is greater than craft. Now, as a leader, whatever your craft is, whatever your gifting is, your talent is, yes, you must develop that. That is it's so important. You are stewarding what God has given you. It's a gift and you steward it. You get coaching. That's what you're doing, right? You get training, you get critique. You pursue being educated. Yes, that matters, but all the more, make sure that you have strong character, that you have someone in your life who can see your life from a 30,000 foot view. It's where coaching or counseling or mentorship or having a pastor in your life matters. Those the person who could speak into maybe what you can't see, because you're in the ring every day, you're fighting, you're doing your thing, but you need somebody in your corner who can see what you can't, who can see when the other fighter, when life or when a trial or when pressure might dodge this way to take the right hook on you. You need a coach. You need somebody in your corner who can say, okay, when they do that, your footwork goes a little silly. Your footwork goes a little to the left when you need to be going to the right. You twist your ankle a little too much, right? That's why it's important to have somebody in your life who could speak into it, who can see what you might not be able to see. I have this, and I'm so grateful that just for that, somebody who can speak into my character. But character goes beyond just having somebody there in your corner. It's you pursuing, of course, I believe pursuing growth as a kingdom man or woman of God. You being faithful to a task, you keeping your word, you showing up early and staying late. These character things matter. You being driven by standards, not by pressures. You being driven by principles and convictions. That right there is character. All day long is character. And that is, I'm telling you, that's attractive. As a leader, that's somebody who you want part of your team. That's somebody that you can follow. And we live in a day and age, it's not really anything new, but it's just exposed more. We live in a day and age to where every mishap that a leader has is exposed. It's put in the forefront, right? And so we need to make sure that all the more we have good character in these days as a leader. All right. Next one. Who is a leader? One who is obsessed with personal growth. Oh, I love this one. I love this one. One who is just obsessed with personal growth, who understands growth mindset must be greater than a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset says, I was only born with a certain mental capacity. Maybe when I reached a certain age or a certain position, a certain accolade, a certain achievement, a certain accomplishment, I don't have to grow anymore because what I've done so far has worked, and I can just stay right here, right? Or you have a poverty mindset and you just, like I said, like I alluded to in the former, you have a poverty mindset, a fixed mindset that also says, I was only born with a certain capacity, certain bandwidth, and that's just how it's going to be. That's not what a leader does. A leader is obsessed with growth, understands that you can expand your boundaries. Right now, you're growing, you're learning. Just as you learned to ride a bike maybe when you were little, just as you learned to drive a car, just as you learn how to communicate and speak, just as you learn how to do what you do, you can learn new things. Just because you're 20s, 30s, 40s, 60s doesn't mean you can't learn something new. And that right there is what makes successful people significant, because that's a whole nother level. It's one thing to be successful. It's another thing to be significant. When you reach significance, it's because you've constantly grown. You've constantly learned, increasing your IQ, increasing your EQ, your intellect, right? Your emotional intelligence. That stuff matters. And so you want to go to the next level in your life, get smarter, get sharper, get more intellectual, get more educated, which is exactly what you're doing. Have a growth mindset, get more coaching, get more correction, growth mindset. CLO means Chief Learning Officer. I believe in our organizations as a leader, we must be the Chief Learning Officer. In other words, you should have this like resolve, this tenacity in you that says nobody in my organization, nobody that I lead will outlearn me. I will be the CLO of my organization. I will be the CLO of my organization, the Chief Learning Officer. You should have when you're in the seat of leadership, that should not satisfy your growth. That should make you more hungry to grow, which is, again, I believe that's why you're on this call. So CLO, Chief Learning Officer, that's what we must be in our organization. Okay, I believe this is the last one. Who is a leader? One who keeps the vision in the front and the mission in the heart. The vision in the front and mission in the heart. This includes with your teams. I say vision, mission, and even culture is like a cup with a hole at the bottom. And each and every week it leaks out naturally, just a little bit, because of people's busyness, their distractions, time goes by. So we need to make sure that each and every week we refill the vision, refill the mission. Leaders are driven by vision, which is what you're going to accomplish and where you're going. and they're driven by mission, which is the why behind everything that you do. It is the driving force behind the vision. It's why you do what you do in life. It's what wakes you up in the morning. It's what allows you to work hard throughout the day, being the CLO, right? The CEO, Chief Executive Officer. You are executing at a high caliber level. You are a high performer. Why? Because you got the mission in front of you. It's what keeps you awake sometimes. It's what causes me to wake up now at 4 a.m. full of mission, full of vision, typing on my notepad. All what I feel like the Lord's speaking to me is because I keep it in front of me constantly. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but if you want to quit, just remember why you started. But you'll never have to get there if you stay there. You know what I'm saying? You'll never have to get to that place that you say, oh, I feel like quitting, but I gotta just remember why I started. Remember that each and every week. Remind yourself, write it, put it on statements, get a vision board, get old school with it. Get around people who talk vision and mission. Get around people who have that growth mindset, who are addicted and obsessed with learning. Get around people who serve other people, who understand that leadership is about developing people, cultivating other leaders, serving them for their destiny. Get around other leaders, get around other high caliber people who think on that level. What I cannot stand is when I get around people who live in excuses, who live in boxes. Matter of fact, lately I've gotten so just sick of it. I've had to get around people who think on a big scale, who think through the lens of why not me? I want you to think about that right now. Why not you? Why can't you as a leader fulfill all your dreams? Why can't you as a leader leave a great impact in many people's lives? Why can't you? I believe you can if you keep these things that I just taught, these 6 things, 5 or 6 things. I believe if you keep these things in front of you, you'll leave a great impact and help a lot of people. And as a result, you will live fulfilled. Amen. Do we have any questions today regarding anything that I hit on? Amen. I see you. Thank you, Ron. I appreciate that. Let's go. Let's go. Any questions at all? Feel free to turn on your audio, type it in the chat, whatever you want to do. If not, no big deal. We can wrap this thing up. I'm having a blast with this, y'all. This is going to be so fun. Each and every Monday morning, just get inspired, get practical tools. I would subscribe to this if I was on the other side. When I have guest speakers in, believe me, I'm going to try my best to just be in the room, be in the lounge with y'all, take a note, gleaning just like you did. All right, let me get to this. Awesome. On point 5, how do you keep obsession from turning deadly, if that makes sense? Great question. Great question. I believe, number one, what I do is I build strategy. And when I build strategy and kind of write a schedule, it keeps it somewhat confined. Because right now, I could easily sway out of those boundaries, and it completely overwhelm my life, and I don't spend it with my family. I have a 1-month-old today. He's 1 month old. And if I become so obsessed that it overwhelms me, obsessed, I know, is a very strong word. I thought about using another one, but for teaching's sake, I wanted to use it. But that's a great question. So I think, one, if you schedule in, I think this is what leaders should do anyways, have a better schedule, time management. You schedule in these things. And when you schedule something, it puts it you put boundaries on it. I think you should do this with even your meetings that you do. Don't just say, hey, let's hang out at 8. Say, hey, from 8 to 8:30, let's hang, etc. But because when you don't put an ending on it, it can just keep going. And it might be days that you binge out, and sometimes you can let it be. But I think one practical thing that really helps me is that I put a timestamp on a lot of my learning, whether I'm reading, listening to a podcast, taking a master class, a mastermind group. And then having people in your life also, secondly, who can hold you accountable to that if you start getting too much with it. But there is so much more time throughout the day to learn than we might know, like your drive home, right? 15, 20 minutes here and there. It's about 40 minutes round trip, 40 times 5, 200 minutes, right? That's a few extra hours a week of you learning. That's 12 hours a month, right? That's 144 hours or so a year more of learning just by listening to 15, 20-minute podcast episodes on the way to and fro work. Think about it that way. Mega Mind class. Okay. Y'all joking now. It's an inside joke. I love it. Hope that helps. But yeah, accountability and some boundaries really do help. Also, if you're present with somebody you need to be present with, but you're not really present and you're constantly up here, which is something that I got to be very intentional about, you might be processing it too much. And so sometimes it's just best to close the book, metaphorically or literally, and just move on and be completely present. But time constraints really help me personally. That's one takeaway. All right. Anything else, fellas? It's good stuff, y'all. Y'all feel free to reach out to me anytime. Last thing I want to give to you is I just want to remind you about just the other resources that I do have. I'm not here to promote myself. I'm just here to be a resource, to be a help. And so my new site launched yesterday, TylerWooten.com. And then, of course, on Instagram, TW Coaching. It was such a pleasure to have y'all here today with me on number one, on the first one. I love being here with y'all. This right here is, it's just such a joy and a privilege and honor. I know any of you on this call could be on this side. Alex asked the question, for someone who doesn't know how to go about making a schedule, what are some steps to go about that and not get so overwhelmed with it? Do it slow and steady. If scheduling overwhelms you, I would start by scheduling maybe 2 days a week, sticking with it. Anytime you're in a rut, you need to write a routine. That routine, though, is what gives you the rhythm, and that rhythm is what gives you the results. And so the routine sometimes is hard. You got to have major accountability, be very black and white, be very militant with it. And that's what my personal coaching does, is I basically write a 30-day hour by hour schedule for you. That's a whole nother thing. But my point is I'm very passionate about that. We can definitely talk more about that, but I think you need to start slow and get rhythms, in these areas. But it's not as scary the more macro you make it. So every vision starts macro, and you need to ask yourself, okay, what's the one step I can do today that brings it all the way down to Monday morning micro level, small, right? So I have vision for this coaching agency to be an entire thing, to have, brick and mortar, a whole like coaching organization, leadership school, et cetera, other coaches, but what it looks like for me right now is showing up to 3 dudes on a Monday morning at 8:00. That's my macro, helping thousands of other leaders. But my micro is this. So I'm on my way to macro because I'm deciding to doing this right here. That's what that looks like. It's not as sexy as that, right? But this right here matters. It's the foundational thing. So I would say start slow and steady, my man. If it overwhelms you, I could definitely speak into that. Reach out to other leaders who are organized, but you have to have a schedule that sets your trajectory. Otherwise, you're just in this perpetual, state of busyness and unproductivity and unfulfillment, and you're cycling and you're never actually moving forward. Just get off the cycle, get off the treadmill, right, and get on the path. And so, great question, my man. Hey, I love you guys. And it's so good to have you today on the lounge number 1. Let's spread the word about this. Come on, for only $20 a month, $5 a week. This right here, I believe, is going to help a lot of people. And again, there are going to be other speakers that come through, and we're just going to have a good time. But in the meantime, I love y'all. Have a great day.